get ready. Hold tight.
Hold on to your hats, boys.
Libos.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week.
Just what the flipping Nora are you all lot doing?
I'm still in there. I'm still right behind him.
It was just a very well thought out tactical plan by Danny.
I want to go.
I can literally feel the steam coming out your ears.
So it's like a fun little post-game snack.
The Wednesday Week! Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week. This weekend, this Saturday, we're at home to Oxford United. I think I said City last time. I sincerest apologies to everybody supporters of that club. But coming up tonight, we're talking to Liam from the Fence End podcast in... Liam, that's a good pal. You all right?
Yeah, good, thanks. I love the production values.
I tell you what, the off the field nonsense and a lot of the on field nonsense has sparked a creativity in me that I didn't know I had, and I sit and, for lack of a better term, dick about with things like that all through the season. I think the credits have changed 4 times since we started this season. How are you anyway? How are you getting on?
Yeah, good, thanks. I was much happier on Saturday through to yesterday evening than I am sat here today. But, you know, that's a football season, isn't it?
Well, I definitely want to talk about some of your recent results, as you can probably imagine. So we're going to be talking about Vaulks as well at some point as well. We'll have to be doing that, right? So let's get into it. So it's, let's go back to July, August last season. You had a different manager. You just come out of League One, decent season for yourselves. Did you feel like it was going to be tough this year? Yeah,
I think all Oxford fans, and I guess all newly promoted fans, know that it is going to be a new challenge. And unlike when we went into League Two and into League One, you sort of we half expected to almost go again and be competing at the right end, and each time we have done. But that's not going to be the case in the Championship. Ipswich are a one-off. It doesn't happen often. I mean, Oxford did that back in the 80s, went up and up again and ended up in the top flight. But it's such a rare thing. You know that you're going in and you look at some of the teams you're playing against, and they're bringing on subs that are worth 20 million, and it's bizarre that there's such a big gulf in one league.
When we came out of League One, our first game at home was against Southampton, and they passed it around us 836 times during that entire game, and then it's that point where you go, "Oh, cool." It kind of sets the tone a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now, in terms of league position right now, I mean, what was your league expectations at the start of the season? Were you thinking, let's just stay up?
I think realistically, yes. I'm going to say optimistically thought, maybe 15th, 16th, because I thought we'd surprise a few teams. And I think we certainly started that way. Beginning of the season, Norwich sort of finding their feet, but as a club that hadn't played them for so long in the league, coming up against them and everyone expecting us to lose, the amount of people that mainly fans, but some pundits as well, sort of like, well, all the other teams have to forget about 24th then, because that's occupied by Oxford and down by Christmas and all of these things. And then going and winning 2-0 on the opening day against Norwich. And I guess relatively naively looked at Norwich as like, oh, well, they're basically a Premiership team. But actually, if you look at any set of fixtures in the Championship, that's who you're playing against.
Yeah.
You go through in any other league and you go, okay, well, we've got 3 or 4 games there where we should pick up some points. It's hard run after hard run in the Championship, and it is relentless, but also incredibly exciting. So, yeah, I relatively optimistically said sort of 15th, 16th, but would have been happy and would still be happy staying up on goal difference.
It's interesting you've said that, actually, because looking at the Championship League table, just having a little scroll there, you've got Plymouth, Bristol City, and well, you could even argue Blackburn Rovers don't even qualify in terms of teams that haven't played in recent memory in the Premier League. I think Sheffield Wednesday are part of that, actually, because it's been 25 years and I find it weird that there are adults that I see on away days that don't remember us being in the Premier League. It's like when Blackpool went up, and I was like, oh wow, Blackpool are in the Premier League. That's insane. And then there were grown-ups older than me going, they were top league for years when I was a kid, and I'm like, right, okay, we're now them. You know,
yeah, we've found the same with the Championship. So yeah, 25 years ago we were in Division 1 as it was then, and the amount of teams going, oh well, Oxford are batting ahead of their station. And you're like, well, we've been top flight. We've won a major trophy. Yes, we've had a really, really bad recent history, but we have been here before. And when I started following, we were in that second tier and playing against the teams we're now playing against again.
Exactly right. So let's talk about some recent results. I tell you, let's talk about the last time we met. So it was back in December, and I feel that, was it the game against us that cost your manager his job? It happened we played Hull City, for example, last week, and we did the same to them, and that's given them a bit of an injection. Did the same happen with Oxford, or it was around that time, wasn't it?
It was around that time. It was, it was a bit of an odd one because it was a bad run of form, a very bad run, but we hadn't been in the relegation zone all season. After he left during the caretaker stage, we dipped into the relegation zone for only sort of 2 or 3 days, and then got back out of it again. But it was, I don't know, it was sort of an odd situation and very un-Oxford United. Oxford United, and certainly in recent history, you can look back when, I know he won't be fondly mentioned on this podcast, but Chris Wilder, when he was at Oxford, there were some tough times, and the club stuck by him. Then Michael Appleton, same. Carl Robinson, the same. And so we sort of are used to being this club that stick by managers through thick and thin, and with 2 of those, they've got us promoted. So you think, well, that's paid off. However, to be in that position where things are looking sticky, but not as bad as they could be, and nowhere near as bad as some of the other teams in the league, and we're already taking that gamble, it just sort of seemed very un-Oxford. But, you know, the people that pay the wages are the ones, it's their gamble, and you've got to sort of stick by that. And then when it comes round to Gary Rowett gets announced, who's been around the Championship for so long, and we need that experience, you can see why they made it. Yeah. But it just seemed very very on brand, if that makes sense.
that makes sense. Now, when we played you around Christmas time, we were having a rich vein of form, actually. Usually Christmas is trash for us, and we ended up winning at your place 3-1. However, I went back to take a look at various parts of that game, extended highlights and newspaper, listen to me, websites, looking through our websites and articles and things like that. And it wasn't a convincing win that the scoreline would suggest. So Oxford went 1-0 up, and then we scored from a cross from the right-hand side where Windass just managed to pop up in between 2 defenders, and it came in off his shin, but he laced it right into the top bins. And then the only real flash of brilliance was the Kassam goal at the end of the scoring, the last one. It wasn't as convincing as I remembered, if I'm honest. So did you feel like is it Des? It was Des, wasn't it? Your previous
Des Buckingham, yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel like he kind of there was the makings of something there, but when you've got Gary Rowett available, you kind of have to make some harsh decisions, right?
Yeah, definitely. Des Buckingham has some great pedigree, and the story behind him. I'm not sure if you know his backstory, but he was a goalkeeper in our youth team. And when he sort of realised, I'm not going to have the glistening footballing career that I want to, one of our coaches, Mickey Lewis, who's sort of a club legend, said, well, why don't you go into coaching? So at 18, he takes up coaching and he starts coaching the under 9s. So Sam Long, who's in our squad, was coached by him at 9 years old. He then sort of earned his badges and went off around the world, New Zealand, Australia, India, winning trophies at each place that he's managed, including Olympics and stuff like that. He went,
wow.
and yeah, ended up in Mumbai, won trophies there. And then he came back to Oxford. So he's this local Oxford fan, earned his badges, comes back when we needed a manager because Liam Manning had gone off to Bristol. And Bristol City, I should.
Yeah, I was going to say
definitely mention that. I was just
the Sheffield Wednesday fans get aggy when we get called Sheffield, but we're the first to just say Bristol.
yeah. Well, I was talking about the location and not the football club, but Bristol City Football Club.
That's where.
I mean, we should talk about Oxford City Football Club at this point because
mate, I keep saying it. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know why all of a sudden it's reached my psyche.
Well, it's the tickets being sent there, which was madness.
There you go.
Anyway, when we needed a manager to come in, he did. And then it's really rare for a manager to come in and not have to tear everything up because it's not worked with the previous guy. We were second and things were going well. So he sort of tried to change his style to match Liam Manning's and it didn't really work. So as we started slipping down, he had to go, right, okay, well, here's how I want to do things. And there was a bit of adjustment there. Anyway, long story short, we end up in the playoffs, we get promoted. And so not only is he still sort of learning English football, he's now got to learn the Championship, which is that step harder than learning it at League One level. So I wouldn't say he's out of his depth because I think he will get there. But it was maybe a bit new. And with a load of players that it's also new for, you need that experience. And Gary Rowett seems to be a good fit.
So tell me about Rowett then. So came in early January, didn't he? And fortunes swiftly changed. I think you went through January without losing, right?
Yeah, went on a 9-game lossless streak, I believe. Which at that position in the table, that's invaluable. Obviously,
that is absolutely mega. I'm just looking at it now, and it was a home tie against Portsmouth was that the one where you lost it? Oh no, Burnley. It was Burnley. Of course it was.
Well, as soon as you concede one against Burnley, that's it. That's your loss.
That's it. Game over. Now let's talk about league table because I was speaking to Hull City last week, and I said that there are going to be Plymouth and Luton, definitely Luton fans, sat there looking at that league table and how tight it is going. We can still get out of this. We can still, survive, as it were. And I think yourselves and Portsmouth on 45 points, up as high as 17th and 18th, must be looking over your shoulders. To be that high up and still looking over your shoulder it's an invidious position to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And then I'm sure you'd like to talk about Saturday's game. I definitely would like to, but you go against, they were top of the league at the time, and you win, and you think, brilliant. We are days away from being safe. And then you come up against a team that haven't won in 8 or whatever it was and had lost the last 6 away games and just didn't turn up. Absolutely. It's so polar opposite. To be 2 home games, so, I'm sat in my season ticket seat and watching this completely different. It was just bizarre how different they could be. But again, that is football, and you see it far more often than you should.
I'd be a millionaire every week, Liam, if that was the case, because that entire weekend where you beat the Blades was insane for the top and bottom half of the table. We found it happened a couple of times last year when we were trying to stave off relegation that excuse me, that if we picked up any kind of point, somebody around us would get a win that they didn't deserve. You know what I mean? And we'd be like, but this season's different because every time somebody mentions, oh, we might be able to sneak into the playoffs, we drop our ass. Season's done. We're already on the beach. You know what I mean? But remember that when we talk about predictions for the end of this game. But talk about Saturday, because I not just in me talking to an Oxford United fan, that's a hell of a result that nobody saw coming. Ruined accumulators across the country.
Yeah, it made my cousin's day because he had £6 on it. Ended up with 204. Gosh. So happy cousin, that one. So it was a battle. As you'll have seen, and we've seen countless Chris Wilder sides. They're up for a fight each time. They don't go into it just like, oh, okay, let's keep our discipline and keep our shape and all of that. If they need to fight, they will fight, and they did, and so did we. And even though they're one of the teams I'm talking about that are able to bring on these sort of £20 million subs, and it's one of those. I don't know how we're meant to compete with this, but we did. We stuck to our plan, and actually, Sheffield United had better chances at 0-0. As soon as we got our goal, every time they got into our attacking third, we'd either block a cross or whatever, or if it did make it through to our keeper, it was straight at him and relatively straightforward. So yeah, it was one of those weird games where when you watch the highlights back, you see Sheffield United attack after Sheffield United attack, but at no point at 1-0 do you think, oh, Oxford are in trouble here.
Yeah, they kind of had all the ball, but I mean, all right, given where you are in the league and under Gary Rowett, you're going to be playing, and I mean this in no disrespect, some robust football. And I don't know if you noticed, but when Chris Wilder brought Sheffield United to Hillsborough, everything took an absolute age. Every goal kick, every corner, every throw in, every free kick, 30, 40 minutes have gone by before they've even booted the ball. And it's to placate the crowd. It's to bring the crowd down and things like that. And it absolutely killed our game dead. Whereas with yourselves, who are playing this robust style of football, suited you down to the ground. Like, take as long as you want, pal.
Yeah, and it's something I haven't seen an Oxford side do, really. We had Carl Robinson, and he tried a few things, and I definitely understand why people don't like him as an opposition manager. But when he's yours, he's yours, and you like it. But
goes in that Chris Wilder, Billy Davis camp. Actually, that's,
yeah.
You know what I mean? One of those players and coaches that nobody likes, but when he's yours, you're like, I like him. He's all right.
Yeah, he's our knobhead. So we didn't water our pitch before the Sheffield United game. We always do, and we didn't, just because it would alter the speed of the ball. During the second half, some of the balls seem to mysteriously disappear from the cones and things like that we don't do as a club. And it was just this, oh, okay, we're doing this. But, with that stage of the season where I don't care how points go on the board, I want points on that board.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I tell you what, and it couldn't happen to a nicer bloke, because this is going to be weird for Chris Wilder, because he's going to get remembered as a Sheffield United legend, especially doing the double overs this season and things like that. So in terms of the other side of Sheffield, he's going to get remembered very fondly. And I just truly wish he had just an ounce of class about him. Do you know what I mean? He's such a dickhead. but I can't say that live on the internet like I just have to, because it makes me sound like a bitter Wednesday fan. So I'm going to move on. But I need to move away. I just find him really classless, and that's not with a Sheffield Wednesday hat on it, if that makes sense. But let's talk about league tables again. Let's just hark back a bit. Have you got any of these guys coming up? Hull, Stoke, Derby, Cardiff, Luton. I should have taken a look.
Cardiff, we've got, but we've got them away. Our away form is not the best. Our home form is pretty decent, but the sides we've got still at home are Leeds and Sunderland. So what we're sort of hoping is Leeds carry on their up and down, and Sunderland, when we play them, are guaranteed playoffs and maybe want to rest a few.
Well, Sunderland had like a 10-point buffer, and when they played us, and they're now up to a 13-point buffer. They're all right. They're in the playoffs. That's happening. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think there's going to be an element of you guys might have a little bit more fight. And let's be honest with Leeds. they've been battering teams, but it's got to that point in the season where we have the old joke of Alexa play Joy Division. Alexa, don't play Joy Division. I've just realised I've got one sat next to me. You know what I mean? We're in that point where we're kind of like fatigue sets in. That's what it is. They play such high, fast-paced football. Fatigue sets in, and you can't keep up that level all season unless you've got the depth. But this is where the injuries kick in. So they've ended up drawing 3 on the bounce in the last 5 games or something, haven't they? And then Burnley have all of a sudden stopped being, well, boring. And Sheffield United have lost the last 2. So there's an element of you. Well, I guess what I'm saying is there's a piece where you could take points off those teams. Or it might not be all 3, but you know, you shouldn't be walking into it thinking, oh, for fuck's sake, like we were.
No, I think especially with Saturday and yesterday, how they went, everyone's been eyeing up yesterday as a like, right, okay, well, that one's at home. That's our last like winnable home game. And, you know, because of where they are. Well, actually, if we had done it the other way and lost against Sheffield United and beaten QPR, we'd now be going, right, okay, well, that might be our lot points wise. Who knows how we're going to get points? But actually, we've shown we can beat one of those top sides that they had the advantage of knowing that if they won, they distanced themselves. They knew that Leeds had dropped points and yet still couldn't do it. So that does sort of give me a bit more hope than it should, but then it is the hope that kills you, and that's just how it all works, isn't it?
Tell me about it. So let's talk about this weekend. Are there any players of ours that you're thinking, oh, hang on, I don't fancy playing them?
I mean, every time I think of Sheffield Wednesday, I think Bannon, and that's enough to just terrify me, and I think everyone who's ever watched you play.
I think I've been doing this show for 15 years, and every time I do an opposition report, that's the first name that gets mentioned. You know what I mean? But you know, have you been made aware of players like Jeddy Kassam, who scored the last one against yours, who has had a good season but dropped off recently?
Oh, well, that's lovely to hear. Couldn't be happier about that. Obviously, James Beadle, I'm aware of because he was on loan with us at the beginning of last season.
We stole him, didn't we?
Not your fault. Absolutely understandable. And actually, it's led to us getting a permanent replacement as opposed to, you know, just a loan, which Beadle was. And it was really nice. James Beadle came to Wembley last season and watched the playoff final. He was sat a few rows behind me, and I think that's testament to his character. Such a young guy. He wasn't there with the club. He just wanted to be there, and I think that shows integrity. I hope he's had a decent season because he's definitely one of those with great promise.
It's when he came to us from you guys, outstanding, and then to get him again this season, everybody was happy about it. During February, a couple of clangers, nothing much, nothing outstandingly terrible, just a few bits that would creep in on a young keeper, and they've been there the last couple of years since we've had him, right? But now we've got in the ranks a youngster called Pierce Charles, who's the number 1 for Northern Ireland. And we now, I suppose, because we're kind of on the beach a little bit, have to start looking forward because James Beadle doesn't belong to us. So we have to start looking forward. So I think the boss is going for, I think Danny Roll's just going to get some minutes under Pierce Charles's belt to the detriment of James Beadle's game time. However, I don't think Beadle's put too much of a foot wrong, but I think this will be the last knock-ins of us seeing him, and it wouldn't surprise me if he goes to, you know, bottom half of the Premier League or you know, look at Leeds. They need a goalie. He could fill, you know what I mean? He could fill that really well.
Yeah. The other one that always springs to mind is Windass because we had his dad. So every time we play against him, he tends to score. So he's as soon as you see he's playing, you're like, oh no, that's okay. So we're 1-0 down.
I think you'll be all right. Windass has had his good 5 games a season, but I didn't say that out loud on the internet. So listen, Liam, let's have a prediction from you, pal.
Oh, I hate doing predictions. Last time I actually gave a prediction was the first game of last season against Cambridge, and everything said we were going to batter him. And so we said, anything, I'm going to go 3-1 or whatever. And we lost 2-0. And it was It was a really bad, really bad display. So I don't know. It's one of those that you look at and you go, every point's really valuable, but would you take a draw? You've got to go for the win. It's impossible, and I don't want to say a score. I'm sorry to ruin your format.
It's all right. It's all right. I think, look, it's Sheffield Wednesday at home. We've not won at home since New Year's Day, and every time it just seems to be 1-1 or we lose 1-0. So 1-1 will be a safe bet. Now, before we wrap this up, how did Will Vaulks take to playing Sheffield United at the weekend? Did we get any shit housing?
Well, he has been taking long throws. I'm sure he took a few at Sheffield Wednesday. And so for our goal, it was from a long throw, and he was throwing from right in front of their fans. So he was getting booed a few times, and so threw the ball in. We won the first, we won the second. Dembele put it in. Everyone ran over to the home fans except one person who very happily turned to the away fans and gave a little cheer to them. So I think it seemed to improve him. Getting booed seemed to make him really up for it. And actually, since Gary Rowett has got so much out of him, the beginning of the season we were playing with one sort of number 6, and that was him. And he made a few mistakes and gave the ball away a few times. Gary Rowett, one of the first things he did was just move Brannigan back and play with sort of 2 6s and 1 8 or 10. And that just shored him up. And he's been so solid since then. What a dangerous thing to say about to play against his former club. But he's just been so solid. And having that championship experience has been really helpful to have that in the middle of the park. And then recently he's been chipping in with the long throws, and we've had some luck from there.
I always got excited from a Will Vaulks long throw. Listen, Liam, it's been an absolute pleasure, sir. Stay on the line. I'm going to wrap this up. Don't forget, Sheffield Wednesday are playing Oxford United, and they're bringing their own tickets at 3 p.m. on Saturday. See you later.
Every week, live from 8 p.m. It's the Wednesday week. Bringing you football analysis.
He came in. I think he scored a goal.
Bringing you banter.
Yeah.
Bringing you responsible life hacks.
Met you wonderful souls at 10 a.m. for some shots.
The Wednesday week. 1, 2, 3, 4 live. Available on all social medias.
Obviously, this goes out on YouTube and as well as all the other social media out there, podcasts, etc.
The Wednesday week 24-25 season. Join us.
Put on your podcast.